All right, welcome into the Knoll Road here, Week 11. The Steelers have a Joe Flacco Bengals problem. This show today is taking stock in every issue they present coming into Acrisure to renew this division rivalry. Simulators have the Steelers only winning 57% of the time. You going higher or lower than that, the Steelers need to play as good on offense, better on defense than they did in Week 7, a 33-31 defeat that Thursday night. How confident are you the Steelers will avoid falling back to 500 here in Week 11? Let's talk about it. Here we go.
Van to the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Buddy, it's the Knoll Road with Dawson and Newbear. Smash the like, subscribe if you have not already. We sure would love it. As we get you set here for Steelers and Bengals, buddy, how you feeling there today?
I am really excited for this game. They're having rap battles in the locker room, and there are all kinds of positional battles all over Twitter and blogosphere and depth chart actual. So I think we're going to get a lot of answers one way or the other about what the rest of this season looks like, and whether or not these guys are going to stand up and fight or lay down and let the Ravens flock.
Yeah. Any word on who won the rap battle?
Well, it was like a free. It was pros. It was one of those things that they did to try for chemistry and lifting people up. Like if you have Tom Segura come in and make fun of everyone kind of thing. They had guys come in and they had some of the clips that I saw were pretty cool because they took some like random guys and had to work them into the battle or the challenge. It was interesting. It was lo-fi, low key, and it made some people feel some kind of way about this 5-4 team ahead of this showdown that might mean everything for the season. Fucking about having rap battles in the locker room.
I don't mind it. Sometimes you got to switch up the vibes one way or another, and that can get some energy going. By the way, Asante Samuel Jr. confirmed out for this matchup, but we kind of anticipated that. Here's what I got for you, Newbear. I have some stats to paint the picture on this game, and it starts with the fact the Bengals have neutralized what is the Steelers' best weapon, which is the pass rush, and things that happened Week 7 on that Thursday night, they've continued to happen. There was like a dynamic shift for the Bengals. It wasn't just the Steelers playing horribly against the worst running game in the NFL. It was actually the Bengals offense getting right. And they have been the top EPA offense in the league since Flacco came aboard now. Their running game has exploded with the threat of this quick passing game. They lead the league in rushing success rate since Week 6, and he has the third fastest time to throw, which has added up to the third lowest pressure rate in the league. You can't get to him quick enough. You have to cover, and those two things combined have made this running game a threat for Cincinnati. So, I think that the Steelers' chances of winning are greater than the 57% ESPN simulator machine is putting at it, but I don't think you can overlook this game. Like that knucklehead Filippone who got his nipples pierced last time is putting a tiger on the butt tattoo on the line here, guaranteeing it. I would want nothing to do with a guarantee like that going into this game. I just think it's a matchup problem.
When you win a Marconi and you get your nipples pierced, if you want to keep that going, you got to up the ante. So the engagement farm on Fleek, I guess, is where I'm going to take that one. But dude, this is what I keep coming back to. Chase Brown popping off and being able to run 2 plays changed the whole game last time these two teams faced off because it took Tomlin out of their gameplay, and they were so worried about Nick Herbig not being able to stop the run. Well, guess what? Highsmith's out, so Herbig's playing no matter what.
There we go. And, I like it.
Jalen Warren also had, what did he have, 16 for 127? He was at like 8 pop.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a 25, 28, 30-touch game for Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren should eat until he throws up, or him and Kenny Gainwell together, or, find something for – this is the game that Caleb Johnson finally has his breakout. And I'm not talking about him getting like 20 carries and 100 yards, but I'm talking about having, a couple of series where he gets to go and they go first down, field goal or touchdown. And this should be one of those games. I actually do not care what the counting stats look like at the end, meaning all these other teams are running roughshod over, Pat Freiermuth has these 100-yard games, and I just talked about Warren averaging 8 yards a carry and 33 points and this, that, and the other. I don't care if they win this game, 28-17. I don't care if they win this game 24-10. I want them to dominate this game and win in a way that shows that like they have a plan and they're able to stick to it and be stubborn on their end and shut the opponent down when they're clearly like top to bottom, not the same level of talent. I don't care about the 1,000 yards in the last 2 games. I don't care about, the Bears getting 47 or, whatever this team did or didn't do. I do not want to see this turn into a shootout where Aaron Rodgers has the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter and he's got to put up or shut up and be clutch to win, because then we're just spinning for the rest of the season.
I hope that we don't see that either, but I think a track meet is the most likely scenario, and I think you favor the Steelers in this situation, but things got to be different. Here's my guarantee. If the Steelers do not win this game, I'm going to present for you maybe by Monday or Tuesday the 19 reasons the 19th season should be Tomlin's last in Pittsburgh. And when I started out on this project a couple of days ago, I thought, wow, am I really going to get to 19 reasons? I'm now at 22, buddy. I'm having a hard time whittling this thing down to 19. But, on that point of what you were just talking about and how things can be different, just changing safeties give you a better chance? I think so. Like getting Clark and Thornhill out of there, getting Peppers back, playing Ramsey at free, having Duggar in there. I think that should be enough to at least trim out some of the most egregious plays that we saw on that Thursday night.
Aren't they saying at least publicly that Ramsey's going to move and that he's going to play?
He's going to go back to floating. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, they're also saying, at least publicly, that they're going to double chase, because Tomlin, he didn't say we're going to double chase. What he said was, when asked how you prevent what happened last time from happening again, he said, you put them in a position where you encourage them to throw the ball to someone else, meaning we're just going to take him out and force, T. Higgins and company to beat us. And I think that was the thing that I was so pissed off about. And I said it, I don't know, 5, 8, 10 times. You didn't stop Chase. You didn't stop Higgins. You didn't stop Chase Brown. You didn't take anything away last time. So, when you go into this, if they do go into this game and they say, we're not going to let Michael Jordan beat us, the Jordanettes, the Jordanaires, everyone else, the supporting cast, because those are the two ways to do it, right? You either say you can't stop that guy, he's too good, so we're not going to let anyone else get anything. We don't care if that dude goes for 16 for 161, because ain't nobody else going to get none. And they didn't do any of that. Everybody ate last time. That was the thing that was so frustrating about short week, divisional opponent, the Flacco trade, living in your fears, and all the different things. It's like, okay, well, what excuse is it going to be this time?
Yeah, hopefully there is no need for an excuse. Hopefully TJ Watt and the defensive line dominates, because that was a big trend for the last time. I don't know if they just ran out of gas, but remember the first quarter looked good, and after like the first 15 minutes, the defense suddenly became fatigued and tired and on the road in a divisional matchup. But I think you can look at the back end as well, and how big of an opportunity is this week for James Pierre, who Mike Tomlin was singing his praises. He's coming off of back-to-back games. It's still a limited sample size. He's played so much football. He's a veteran. It's hard to imagine James Pierre taking a significant step forward, but sometimes career years happen. And if that's going to be the case with James Pierre and he goes out there and excels, whether it's against Chase or Higgins or whatever his role is, I think you'd have to look at, considering him for an even larger role. I know Darius Slay was not destroyed. He might have had the best game in that Thursday night matchup as far as targets and catches given up. But for the balance of the season, Slay has been a disappointment so far. I think he took a big half step towards being completely washed up. And, you got a lot of different faces here, but it's really more about, to me, the guys up front, making their presence felt. And you got to do it pretty quickly against Joe Burrow. Might come down to blitzing more. They did blitz Flacco only 24% of the time in that week 7 matchup, and that was their second lowest rate of the season. So a lot to consider there. I don't know if I want more blitzes against Flacco. I don't know if I want more man. I think I want to continue with the same approach and trust my guys up front, a lot more Herbig to get home quickly.
What did you call an outlier? You said something was an outlier, maybe.
Pierre's breakout season.
Oh, yeah. So
year 6, sometimes you get a breakout.
I was going to ask you what your favorite, like off the top of your head, because one of my favorite outlier breakout seasons has got to be Brady Anderson hitting 50 home runs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He never hit more than and I was just thinking about doubling. Like, imagine if you'd average, 10 points a game and then you score 20 points a game in a season in basketball, or, it would be like going from having, 50 goals to 100 goals. Like, he never hit more than 24 home runs, and then he hits 50 and he's, on the cover of magazines.
I was actually thinking of Brett Boone, the former Mariner.
Oh, yeah.
He had that, I think it was 40 or 45 home runs or something from second base for those 2001 Mariners that won 116 games. I think baseball, it happens more likely just because of the sample size thing and how you can get hot. And, but in football, in football, it usually happens like with an idiot who's too busy drinking and partying and chasing women. And then all of a sudden he wakes up and it's year 4 and he needs a big year. So he locks in for that summer, like the first 3 months of the season, and, has the 12 sacks before he goes back to being a full-blown knucklehead. Usually it doesn't happen with professionals like James Pierre, who are just talent deficient. But, sometimes everything matches up for you in a given year, or you get good matchups, you get in the right situation, and, things come together for a very short window where you can kind of play like a Pro Bowler for 24 months or so.
Here's what I like. He's already set, career high with 6 passes defensed. I think he's only 3 or 4, and that's 6 in 9 games. You project that out. He keeps playing, and he gets into double digits. That's a serviceable dude, and that's the thing with him, is that you assume. This is why the Ramsey moving is so interesting, because don't you have to kind of assume that it's going to be James Pierre on Chase, and then you're going to double him because you're going to put your weakest corner on their best guy, but 2 dudes on him in reality, and then maybe you play him in a trail and just kind of have him not give up that quick, easy stuff, because you talk about how the defensive line's got to dominate. If it's catch and throw, or if it's 3-step and throw, like, it doesn't matter how clean you win off the line of scrimmage. How many times you watch Micah Parsons? How many times? Even this year when they played Dallas, how close was he? How many times? But if you can't get there if it's catch and throw. So it's it's not just about blitzing. It's about pressing and jamming and disrupting and changing the picture after the snap and
getting your hands up.
Yeah, like Cam Hayward. This might be a week where TJ and Cam, bat 3 or 4 balls, or YA Black's in there, popping one up, and maybe that's where the turnover comes from. If we can't count on. There's a reason DBs play DBs, because they can't fucking catch. So, like, the Joey Porter Jr. and everybody losing their minds about the pick 6 he dropped last week, it happens every game for every team. That's why they play DB. Yeah. But those batted balls are a lot softer, and it's almost like it's in slow motion. Maybe that's how that comes about this week, where they're still playing catch and throw and they're getting it out quick, and he's dirting balls, not taking sacks. But if you can get one of those bats and you can get the game-changing play going the other way, like, it doesn't matter how it comes. It just matters that it comes at all.
That's right. Okay, so, we go to the other side of the ball. Can the Steelers offense bounce back? This is a tailor-made situation to do exactly that. They should. Do you have belief in a track meet? Leave your comments down below. Like the video if you think the Steelers are going to win, score over 30. I would like to say I believe it with 100% of my heart, but if you remember back to that game, the Steelers only had 17 points with about 10 minutes to go, and it wasn't until they got into, oh, crap, we got to just throw this thing and hope for the best, and then you had the busted coverage on the big touchdown to Freiermuth that they end up getting to the 30 points.
Well, that was, even though it was a busted coverage, that was a candidate for throw of the year. I mean, that ball
it wasn't a busted coverage. The safety just shaded too far to the sideline. I think they thought they were going to get another one of those DK Metcalf sideline balls that they picked off late in the first half, and that's when it went to the opposite side of Freiermuth. It was just an unbelievable scramble and throw there by Aaron Rodgers. But this is insane. You know, the Bengals just gave up 39 to the Jets. They have a league worst 49% success rate against passing plays. They're 31st in success rate against rushing plays. Like this, like you said, should be a Jalen Warren 30-touch game. 79% of Cincinnati's touchdowns have been via passing, the highest rate in the league, though. So you could and 78% of the Steelers' offensive touchdowns have come via passing. So I think they can really draw it up however they want. But I would like to lean more aggressively towards time of possession, because that narrative that the Steelers defense is getting worn out and then in the fourth quarter they're getting feasted on, that's kind of relevant. There's a lot of stats to back that up.
No Hendrickson, no Stewart either, right? Like there should be no problem. There can't be the self-inflicted wounds, the false starts, the getting behind the chains, fumbling snaps, bad snaps, whether it's under center or in the gun, pre-snap penalties, any of the bullshit. I think a lot of people are calling for one of the big prop bets this week is JPJ pass interference on T. Higgins, because they just battle, and JPJ has been pretty clean so far. So in order to kind of get him back to level, he's going to get a few flags his way this week. And it's not that he's not handsy all of a sudden, it's that they're not calling it, and maybe he's not being as egregious with it, where sometimes you see him catch that undershirt, and they pull the tail out and you rip the shirt under the jersey kind of thing, or you pull a towel out or whatever. And it's like, man, how do you not see that or call that? He's been a little bit more clever about it, which is good to see. And it's also something that if the receiver is physical, JPJ is very physical. He's very long. It's very obvious when he's physically dominating and kind of big brothering somebody. Higgins is not like that. Higgins is physical and rangy and wiry, and he's got that olive oil, all arms and legs coming at you as well. And they're going to battle. So like coming back to the Steelers on the offensive side of it, the pre-snap stuff, the anything that's going to keep you behind the chains, Broderick Jones being lazy with a pass set or a chip bouncing somebody inside where he gets called for holding on a play that, he should be just fine. Like that stuff cannot happen. You just have to be 3, 5, 7, start over, 3, 5, 5, 11, 3, 5. Like if you don't hit that big ball over the top, you can't be throwing, punt interceptions to DK Metcalf. Keep working Freiermuth in the seam. Keep working Warren or whoever you want to trot out there between the tackles. Like this defense is ass. Like you have to just go beat them up.
Yeah. I wanted to get your thoughts on time of possession. We talk with former NFL quarterback Babe Laufenberg. He's the radio analyst for the Dallas Cowboys, and he comes on the show quite often. That's one of his pet peeves is the time of possession storyline. He's like, what you should want is explosive offense. Explosives are a better predictor of success. But when you line up the stats, okay, so it was 34-26 time of possession in week 7 for Steelers-Bengals. And the Steelers have been really bad at it. They're only running 55 plays a game. The opponents are running 69. Okay, and that's 7 more than average. The Steelers are also giving up the most points in the fourth quarter in the NFL, which creates a pretty compelling storyline that they're getting worn down and they're getting tired. Where do you come out on that?
Yeah, so the plays in and of themselves is what's always the most fascinating thing to me, because you get tired from those 4, 5, 6 second bursts. And when you look back and you're remember when Chip Kelly was at Oregon and they were always trying to run like 100 plays a game?
Yeah.
It was always about wearing the other team out. And that's why Nick Saban was so pissed off about it from a safety perspective, because you were seeing guys getting hurt. You were also seeing guys making really egregious mistakes where you're seeing friendly fire. And that's where all this fake injury stuff started coming from, where, there's someone on the sideline with a card or a signal, and now all of a sudden someone's got a hamstring, and that integrity of the game kind of thing, turned into, thankfully, a penalty situation. But what I look at is less about, 34 minutes and 26 minutes, but 70 plays and 55 plays, because when you start talking about division of labor, Herbig, Highsmith, Watt, Sawyer going and rushing quarterbacks, well, if Flacco's dropping back 47 times and he got sacked a couple times, so let's call it 50 pass rushes, that plays different than going and chasing Aaron Rodgers 34 times, right? No matter who it is, no matter the talent level. I'm talking about exertion. I'm talking about stamina and what you got left in the tank in the fourth quarter. And that's where some of this stuff is coming from. And that's why I had to kind of cede my point to some of our fans in the comments where I was saying, hey, let's not be so worried about some of these interceptions that Rodgers threw to DK because they're basically like punts. I got caught up in that part of it where I was more excited about the aggressive downfield attempt to go get a big chunk play than I really wasn't paying attention to how quickly those turnovers came. So like if the other team has a nice drive, whether they score or they don't, they flip the field and your defense was just out there for 7, 8, 10 plays, anywhere, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then you go 3 and out, that's one thing. But when you go, 1, 2, or throw that pick on third down, now there's a momentum. Now there's a here we go again. Now there's an emotional component to it beyond the physical, and that shit wears on you too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in defensive fatigue being a factor. Like these great edges, you see TJ Watt wear out. You see Micah Parsons wear down. Like it's almost impossible. You have to have like elite Tour de France type of durability or ability, with your body to turn oxygen into energy. You got to be in the upper 1% really to go. And, I've heard front office people in the NFL over the years say the great edges, they really only have like 15 a game where they can really, really get after it. And then it's almost like they've been through a heavy, intense workout in a gym and their muscles are just fatigued to a point. So, I think that goes to the rotation of Highsmith, Herbig, Watt. Obviously, Highsmith is out this week, but it really goes to the difference of the 55 and the 69 plays. Like if that's catching you on the back end and you're at play 60 and you've already gone a dozen times, like how many more times can you really go with 100% of your effort and try to get to the quarterback, which is going to take us to the next topic here, quarterback at Aaron Rodgers and how much he needs to have the final 8 games be amazing and how much they've been struggling lately. Diving into some of their trends here, the most concerning one is a theme that I've talked about throughout the week, and it goes back to Green Bay and what was a major wedge that was driven between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, which was that Rodgers doesn't like play action. They are the 5th lowest in the NFL right now at play action. He doesn't like it. He never liked it. He likes to keep his eyes downfield, but it's gotten worse as he's gotten older. And now I think his concern level about being hit in the pocket, about turning his back on guys on the defense, and then not being able to brace for a hit, I think this is the age playing a factor. And if Mike Tomlin doesn't understand it, or Arthur Smith doesn't understand it, or is letting Aaron Rodgers have his way with this, they really need to go back and look at what happened when McCarthy was let go. LaFleur came in and said, hey, let's try more play action. And it was MVP time once again for Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is the biggest cheat code in football. Obviously, if you're running the ball well, which I believe the Steelers can, it has an even bigger impact. But just getting the defense a couple of times a game to bite on that and result in a big play can be the difference in winning or losing quite easily. And the fact the Steelers aren't doing it as much, I think, is a pretty substantial leak in their efficiency.
So it's funny because you talk about play action. Rodgers doesn't even like motion. That was one of his big fights with LaFleur. I think one of the reasons that it was so surprising he fought with McCarthy was McCarthy and Rodgers believe the same things. They don't like a ton of motion. They don't use a ton of play action. They don't use a lot of pre-snap stuff. It's pretty static is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And whether it's 2x2, 3x1, both McCarthy and Rodgers prefer that. And I think the fight with McCarthy was more about Rodgers wanting to call more of his own plays and do more of his own thing, a la Peyton Manning, one of his idols. Because Rodgers has talked a lot about how he's always marveled at Peyton Manning being in this static look. And it wasn't even just whether it was 2x2 or 3x1. It was no. Reggie Wayne goes here, Marvin Harrison goes here, right? Like it was the dudes were in the same spot every time. And Rodgers also likes to get tricky with tempo. He likes to go no huddle out of nowhere. And then he also likes to slow things down and huddle up after you've no huddled and mess with the defense that way. He wants the clearest picture where he can dictate terms pre-snap. And he can say, I know exactly what I want to do. This is what I believe they're doing, so this is how I have to change off of that. And that's what Manning excelled at. People think Peyton Manning in Indianapolis and Denver, ran all these crazy plays. They didn't. The playbook was actually very small. It was a handful of plays with variations off of it, and just your guys knowing what to do, and in many cases being better than the dudes they were going against. And if they were playing against a commensurate talent type, then having an answer, meaning an option within the route or the coverage. So, Rodgers is very interesting because he's really smart, and he wants to show that. He wants to kind of show how much smarter than he is. And he doesn't necessarily feel the need to use the tools and tricks of the modern game because he likes the way that he likes it. And with the success that he had, you look back and you go, well, who's to blame when it goes wrong? Is it LaFleur for not ceding more to Rodgers, or is it Rodgers for not ceding more to LaFleur? Or in this case, an Artie Smith and kind of the different way that he wants to do things. And it's really, really, really difficult when you're not having success because everybody's wrong.
Yeah, you're right. And that losing will get finger pointing and negative momentum going in the in the wrong direction. And the next thing you know, like things are becoming actively worse because of the attitude and because of the animosity between the parties. But I feel like against the Bengals, everything's going to work. Like Aaron Rodgers' best game of the season was against Cincinnati. By the way, that was only 249 yards, which is still his season high, which kind of tells me the majority of the league kind of has them in checkmate right now. And I feel like the only way you can win with a quarterback of this age with his physical limitations is with really great coverage and guys that can win when they send extra guys in blitz. And now you're looking at a situation with Aaron Rodgers where he doesn't want to scramble. He's got the lowest air yards per attempt of his career by far. When he does try to push it downfield, it's not efficient. It's not a high success rate because these defenses have become so fast and so advanced that if your quarterback is not willing to run multiple times a game, in effect, to force them to run them out of those coverage looks, you're not going to get favorable stuff downfield. And to compound that, exactly what you were talking about right there. Sorry if I got off track, but you were talking about how smart he is and how much he wants to show it. If you let Aaron Rodgers in control, you're not going to get play action, you're not going to get motion, and you're going to pass way too much. This Steelers offensive line needs to be protected by running more. I like the athleticism of Broderick Jones. I don't like him trying to pass protect 35, 40 times a game. So all those things are compounded by the fact that when Rodgers is in trouble, he's just got to fall down and take a sack or throw it out of bounds. Like in the NFL, it has been a resurgence of the run game, but the running quarterback has got to be the neutralizing factor. And it doesn't have to be for 600 yards a season. It could be 175. But when they are daring you to run, if you're not taking them up on that dare, I don't know how good of a chance you have unless your offensive line is the best in football. Jared Goff.
Did you see the thing that was going around about Zach Frazier and Rodgers? I got a really, really, really good laugh out of. I guess Rodgers got sacked and he was bitching as he was getting helped up, talking, Zach, get out of the way. And I guess Zach looked at him and said, where were you going? Like even his own guys know that he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I guess you can hope for the best there, and there might be a couple of scrambles in it. But you saw in that last game how scared he was of contact as he got to the goal line. It was almost like, I guess I got to do this because I'm the quarterback and we're playing football. But if you're not physical and tough and aggressive at the quarterback position, I need you to be safe. But if you're like pussyfooting up there like, oh, crap, a big guy's going to hit me, it might be time to get out of the game, dude.
Well, and can we just agree? I mean, you can tell me I'm crazy, but I don't think any of these coaches should be teaching baseball. I don't think any quarterback should ever baseball slide. Dive forward or just take a fucking knee, fall down. Like every time I see a guy baseball slide, I'm just waiting for him to get drilled in the head and miss next week's game. CJ Stroud was the most recent guy, but if you watch Justin Fields do it, on Thursday night, it was crazy. I held my breath every single time. And On top of that, you give up when you slide feet first. You always see the refs spot it like 2 or 3 yards shorter than it would be, and I don't understand it because yes, you're protecting yourself, quote unquote, air quote, because you're giving yourself up, but you're actually making yourself susceptible to a concussion, like more than anything I could imagine you doing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I guess the rule is, and some refs will kind of help you on this, but as soon as you decide to slide, as soon as your body drops down,
right,
you're supposed to mark it. So it's really difficult to like slide at that first down mark. It'd be interesting to see a study on it.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because if Rodgers, like when Bud Dupree earholed him, and you see that picture where he literally looks like a different person, he looks like he's wearing a Mission Impossible mask inside his helmet, and it's terrifying to think about him, taking some shots that lead to, because he's had a concussion issue. He's had the Percocet, we know Perk Rodgers, all the different things, where he's had his battles with that, with injuries and playing through pain and the crazy eyes, right, in post-game interviews. And Peyton Manning, going back to one of his idols, like Peyton Manning with his neck at the end of Indianapolis, but particularly in Denver, he would literally just go down. He would take a sack and punt versus taking the hit, right? And like, if you can be super highly functional and just throw your laser cannon rocket balls, and especially if they can figure out this offseason, if he were to make a cameo, what they do with wide receiver 1/wide receiver 2, he can throw this ball as long as he wants to. The problem with him, and I apologize for going long here at the end and specifically on this take, but I didn't want to dog him about not being able to move without applauding him for 20 years of being one of the low-key, most efficient dudes on the move, certainly the best thrower of the football, but also a guy who would go break your back, on the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. and the fact that he can't do that anymore, there's just enough muscle memory, scar tissue back there where, like, on plays like that safety, you can see the oh shit light bulb instead of just the light bulb, like, I can get out of here, because for 20 years he could. And now Father Time is kicking his ass.
He was terrific at it. But now I think with this level of athleticism from him, the lack of height that he was knocked for coming out of college is finally coming home to roost. Okay, I have 3 matchups for you as we wrap this thing up here on the Knoll Road. 2 on offense. Metcalf against DJ Turner, who had a pick in the first game. Young corner playing at a near all-pro level. DK Metcalf has to produce just 3 catches for 50 yards in the first game. Over the last 2 weeks, it's been 5 catches combined for 41 yards. So, the Bengals have not allowed a single wide receiver to gain over 75 yards against them in their last 3 games. It's amazing all the yards they've given up. There's been no real breakout wide receiver. But from a fantasy perspective, because of the things I just mentioned, Metcalf is outside of the top 20 playable wide receivers in week 11. So if you got like a 10-team league, people are considering not playing Metcalf, and he's got to reverse that trend quickly if Pittsburgh's going to do anything. Osai, their best pass rusher with Trey Hendrickson out. This has to be a matchup Broderick Jones can bounce back. Am I getting audio off your phone? What you got going on over there? And then you go to the defense.
I was checking something because Wayman had sent me some. Wayman said, I think we're going Rodgers Flacco in the thumbnail, and he said we should have went DK and Turner. And I was just checking this message he sent me because DK called out Turner. DK said, I hope he is following me. I think DK knows that he's got to go moss some of these dudes and make up for. He took the blame for the route. He said he saw Rodgers bail and he kind of gave up on the route. He went way too flat, which is a nice way of saying I didn't think he was ever going to throw it to me, so I basically thought the play was over last week. But going back to that Thursday night game with Cincinnati, Turner said to DK, basically saying, I hope he's on me. Turner said, challenge, like challenge accepted. Like, this is what it's about. And he's one of the best. I'm one of the best. Like, let's go. Like, Turner handled it really well. But DK literally said, I hope he's on me the whole game.
Then Osai on Trey Hendrickson, or Osai's their best pass rusher with Hendrickson out.
Yeah.
Broderick Jones has to be able to handle him. I mean, if you can't handle him, we're already talking about needing to get a new left tackle. I don't know how you could go into 2026 serious about contending like that.
We talk about these next 8 games for Aaron Rodgers. You could argue that these next eight games are as important for Broderick Jones as they are for any player on the roster, because you're talking about his fifth-year option, and you're talking about going into the draft, and instead of having all this talk about a quarterback, how about the guys up front who are going to protect him and the capital you're going to move to go get that guy? If he's not the answer, it's a huge miss, and he misses out on a lot of money and is basically starting over again. And I do want to say this, because you can't just clown on Broderick Jones. And I will say that the hands thing is fascinating. You see some of this tape from practice, and they're just always down. It's like when Muhammad Ali, learned that he could take a punch and he stopped being, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. But except this is a guy who's never been the champ, right? Get your damn hands up, and then I think a lot of things will work themselves out. This is why, though, these next 8 weeks are so important. They spent a couple years, playing this guy on the right side, and then he had the injury in the mirror position. This is really like his first shot at doing this for a full season from the blind side, and he's doing it in a way where he's going to run out of time.
He is. He'll become a backup, hoping to resuscitate his career, maybe swing tackle action. I think, you just can't avoid it. You're either going to have Aaron Rodgers or a rookie quarterback, and to have that at left tackle, just a major hurdle for victory right now. You got Mims, who's an average tackle. TJ Watt has to feast on this dude. It was way too good. It was like a Mims career game, or Mims best game of the season in week 7. And your money's got to produce here. I don't think we are going to be able to let the veteran Steelers defenders off the hook if they can't get this job done in a big way and, hit that quarterback a few times. I mean, he's old too. You got to make him feel every bit his age. Okay, kickoff noon at Acrisure. Back Monday with our overreactions.
Noon your time. Noon your time, Texas boy.
Did I say noon again? Kickoff at 1 at Acrisure. We're back Monday with our overreactions. It's Dawson and Newbear here on the Knoll Road.